CommsConnect 2019 workshops, masterclasses, registrations, door 4-5, and the pre-conference workshops 215 to 17 to 18 level 2 stairs 3. Yes, and I've been trying to find stairs 3 level 2, but I'm not sure where it is because this conference center is so massive. It is so huge. It's also so beautiful actually, but I don't have any clue where that exactly might be. So they have this saying that you're never too old to learn, and that's what I found out in this industry actually. There are a lot of old chaps in this industry, but they're still following the master classes and the trainings and the workshops. That is so important to have a better understanding of the global critical communications industry. It's not only about devices, it's not only about the networks, it's a combination of everything. And that's why it's so important to understand what's going on right now with all of these changes that are affecting old networks, but also new networks. Later I'm going to speak to the ARCIA about organizing these kind of workshops. Well, these girls are definitely not for CommsConnect, I'll bet. But first, round number 2 of the Tuesday workshops. So I'm here talking with Ian Miller and he's showing me the certificates.
This is a certificate for their training course. At the end of each training course in the next few days, the workbook that they've done we correct and that's sent back to them, but also with the certificate that they've got they can put on their wall or into their folder that shows that they've actually undertaken and completed the training course. In addition to that, it now has a little tag on it that gives the time of that training course. So if an engineer is doing it and he has to do time training for everything, he can out of this can get a 3-hour recognition of time training that means that he can maintain his qualifications as well.
And that's so important for the individual, but it's also important for the RCS to show, you know, what you guys are doing in the field of training, right?
True, and as part of this we'll also be keeping a record of it so that in the future someone can come to us and say, what amount of training has person X done? We can go back on the file and say, yes, they've done this and this training, and we can give them a recognition then that that's what they've done and that's how they've achieved some industry training as well as what they've done through their formal training networks.
Okay. Very important.
It is. It's something we believe is very important. It's recognition.
So just to give you a little bit of an idea, this is the pre-conference training workshop, masterclasses 26 and 27 November. So we're on Tuesday right now, and this shows exactly what's going on today. So it also shows there are 2 workshops later today on cutting through the hype, specifically when you look at 5G, for example, and LMR. You know, when is this conversion necessary for who, and what is really about the hype of 5G? Is it really that's important right now, or can you maintain your LMR network for the coming years? I think that is kind of interesting because that's hosted by the Australian Critical Communications Forum, which is part of the TCCA. All right, time for a cup of coffee. So as you can see, we're at the booth of the ARCIA, and this is Chris Stevens. And Chris, the next big thing in PMR or in critical communications is not a technology, it's something else, right? It's training, I believe, is it?
Absolutely, and it's training. It's skilling up the next generation of our workforce, the next generation of our industry to have the skills to keep going. And without that training, without that succession planning, the industry will fall apart.
But there is something missing, there is a gap, is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And my background is teaching. I used to be a school teacher many years ago. And about 12 years ago, I was dead set keen to join the critical communications industry. I'd had some experience in it, I'd gone into teaching, I finished my teaching and then wanted to become a consultant in an area that I was very passionate about. My grandfather was in the industry, so I wanted to follow in his footsteps. I knocked down doors, nobody would let me in. I looked online, no training. I approached the tapes, no training. Unless I wanted to be an apprenticeship. Now I was in my early 30s, I didn't want to be an apprentice. I was too old to go back to uni to do engineering. So where was that void? There was a void that was noticed. And so I, very stubborn, I knocked down a lot of doors, I drained a lot of people's brains, I bled them for information, and I got to where I am at the moment. So now my passion is saying, well, hang on, if there's somebody not as stubborn as me that's trying to enter the industry, they're going to walk away. They're going to find another industry that's easier. So let's build the training pathways, let's have courses, let's have education available for them so they can learn.
So we have a few workshops going on, as I said. This is the ARCIA lightning protection and earthing systems. We have sensors, smart cities, and implications for critical control rooms. An important one actually, when you look at it. And then we have probably another one, but I'm not sure exactly where that is. That's probably a little bit further there or there. So that means workshops are starting. It's 9:30. Let's go inside. So what gap do we need to bridge? Because we got two generations people, right? We got the old guys, the old RF guys, and the new IT guys. Is that the gap exactly that we need to bridge?
Yeah, so look, there's a couple of different avenues that we need to look at. So if we have a look at our university sector at the moment, it's very strong. We have engineering. You can go on and you can do masters, you can do postgraduates and specialise in the radio communication side of things, you know, the physics, the propagation, the frequencies and spectrum sides of things. Unfortunately, because radio, traditional what we refer to as radio two-way and RF, has been on the decline, the TAFE sector currently see that it's not economically viable anymore for them to run bespoke Certificate 3s and TAFE courses for apprenticeships. So our apprentices are going off and doing Certificate 3s in electronics, which gives them the fundamentals of electronics and DC and AC and some basic frequency principles, but there's that massive gap for them to get the bespoke knowledge within the radio communications, within the line testing, within the filtering, within those areas that's still very, very important in our sector. Most of those young kids, and they are kids, are coming out very skilled on IP and IT, much more than us.
Exactly.
But we need to give them the RF training. So if we can deliver that in bespoke, customised, certified courses, then that gives them the advantage. The other end of the spectrum, as you raised, was the older professionals, the RF guys, the guys that know how to handle a watt meter and a site meter and can do a line sweep with their eyes closed, but they don't have those strong fundamentals of IT. So we need to be able to provide them training. So it needs to be holistically approached, just not an entry level into the organisation. It needs to be that continued learning. And so for that reason, last night at our industry dinner,
I was moved about this young apprentice who came on stage. Well, just take a look at this video over here.
I'm really excited for the innovation that the radio industry has for many years, and I encourage other companies to employ apprentices because this year
he was great, wasn't he?
He was amazing, and look, we didn't expect him to jump on the microphone, but the passion, I brought a tear to my eye.
Yes,
He's just the passion, and he's the future. Yep. And to not only get up on stage and get the recognition for what he's doing, but to be then so excited about it was brilliant. And we had another situation earlier in the year where we were running a professional development workshop through the Industry Association around Australia, and we had a lot of young apprentices come to those. And unfortunately, on the certificates that we issued 2 weeks later, one of the apprentices' names was spelled incorrectly, and he was devastated because it meant so much to him to have that training, to have that certificate. That pride. I did this course and I've got this certificate. So we reissued it, of course, and it ended up a good story. But they're so passionate, which is what we need.
That's cool. Okay, thank you very much.
No worries at all. Thank you.